Sri Gurubhyo Namaha children, you are welcome for the online class. See, previous class we saw two parts. One is God sees the truth but waits. We saw part 1 and part 2 and we are going to continue the same. In the last part we saw that Asimno was just sitting among the prisoners and there a new entry had been coming, a group of new convict are coming, and other convicts were asking them and they were just talking. While they were talking, you were know that these words made Asimno wonder whether this man knew who had killed the merchant. So here in the previous lesson we saw the other asked him, so here when Makka Simeon heard this, he looked at Asimno, slapped his own knee and exclaimed, well, this is wonderful, really wonderful, but how old you are grown, granddad. So these words, again you just think over these words, when Makka Simeon heard this, he looked at Asimno, slapped his own knee and exclaimed, well, this is wonderful, really wonderful, but how old you have grown, granddad. So he was telling, so here he was mentioning his place where he had come, and that from Siberia they have been changed, but Asimno's place where when it was announced, immediately he was just looking at him and he wanted to know who is he and what had happened. And when Makka Simeon heard this, he looked at Asimno, slapped his own knee and exclaimed, well, this is wonderfully, really wonderful, but how old you have grown, granddad. So this shows that he was well known to him, and the others asked him why he was so surprised and where he had seen Asimno before. But Makka Simeon did not reply. He only said, it's wonderful that we should meet here, lads. So here he came out with the words, with the truth, that how your grown granddad. That word is very clear. He is well known that Simeon had known Asimno, but here he was not even telling that. When other people were surprised how he knows them, and that made him, how could I help hearing? So here he says these words made Asimno wonder whether this man knew who had killed the merchant. So he said, perhaps Simeon, you have heard of that affair, or maybe you have seen me before. So you know that I am Asimno, the grandfather, you know about me, so you know what had happened to me also. So please tell me what had happened. So he is saying that wonderful, I don't know anything, but I have heard something, so that I can't tell now. So he was telling, how could I help hearing? So by hearing I cannot prove that as a witness, and the world's full of rumors, but it's a long time ago and I have forgotten what I heard. So he said that I have not seen you, but I have heard you, and as I have heard this for a long days ago, so I have forgotten about it. So there is a lot of rumors too, so I don't know whether what I have heard is true or not. So he was telling this. Perhaps you heard who killed the merchant, as asked Asimno. So he was asking, perhaps you would have known who had killed. Makka Simeon laughed and replied, it must have been him in whose bag the knife was found. So he is saying that it must be who, laughed and said, it must be whose bag the knife is found. And if someone else hid the knife there, he is not a thief, still he caught, as they saying is. How could anyone put a knife into your bag while it was under your head? It would surely have woke you up. So now he is very clearly saying that, see, he is telling that Makka Simeon laughed and replied, it must have been him in whose bag the knife. So who was the convict, the person, or who is the thief, the person who had killed and who had kept his knife in his bag. And he is not a thief till he caught. So if somebody had kept also, he is not a thief till he caught. As saying this, how could anyone put a knife? How could anyone put a knife when you having your own bag with you? So when you are sleeping, so he was telling, so when it was under your head, it could surely have woke up you. So if it is under your head, if somebody would have woke you when you are taking that. When Asimno heard these words, he felt sure this was the man who had killed the merchant. He rose and went away. All that night Asimno lay awake. So here when this word had been uttered by Makka Simeon, so here he found that Asimno found out who is the real murderer, and he had understood that it was Makka Simeon who had killed the person, and he was just imprisoned and undergoing the punishment. So he rose and went away. All that night Asino lay awake. He was lay awake. He didn't get sleep at all. He was just awakened. He felt terribly unhappy and all sorts of images rose in his mind. So here he was not getting sleep. All sorts of imagination was running in his mind. There was the image of his wife as she was when she parted from her to go to the fair. He saw her as if she were present. Her face and her eyes rose before him. He heard her speak and laugh. Then he saw his children, quite little as they were at the time, one with a little cloak on, another at his mother's breast, and then he remembered himself as he used to be young and merry. He remembered how he sat playing the guitar in the porch of the inn where he was arrested, and how free from care he had been. He saw in his mind the place where he was flogged, the executioner and the people standing around the chain, the convicts, all 26 years of his prison life and his premature old age. The thought of it made him so wretched that he was ready to kill himself. Just think over, he had not done a mistake at all. He had not killed a person. But unfortunately, he had been taken to the prison, and for 26 years, long years, he was been in prison. And when he knows that somebody who murdered and who killed the person, and the same person is not had been free, not had been given punishment, and for some other punishment when he come, just think over the feeling of the person. So the same feeling as was having, and he was not getting sleep at all. In his dream or in his image, he got his wife's image when he was departed from her for the fair. And the dream what she was telling to him, that all was in his mind running. And the two kids with his wife when they came to jail. So when that scene was just as a image, he got it. And he was just singing a free life, how he was enjoying, that all been running in the mind. And later his mind was telling 26 years he was just spent all the day and night in the same prison for the innocent person without doing any mistake. So that all were running in his mind as an image. And when this all came to him, he felt very sad, and there is no word to say. And he was thinking, why I have to live? Why I have to live? That was the thing running in his mind. And he was thinking, so wretched that he was ready to kill himself. He is ready to kill himself. He wants to die and he doesn't want to live anymore. So that was the feeling of Asino in this place. And it's all that William's doing, thought Asino, and his anger was so great against Makka Simeon that he longed for vengeance, even if he himself should perish for it. He kept repeating prayers all night, but could get no peace. During the day, he did not go near Makka Simeon, nor even look at him. So, and it's all thoughts villains doing. So here he was thinking of Makka, how criminal he was, and he done a mistake and he put somebody in the trouble, and he was thinking this all in his mind. And his anger was so great against him. So he was having anger, and it was so great against him, and that he longed for vengeance. He wanted to take a vengeance, even if he himself should perish for it. So he want to give a punishment for him, so dangerous punishment for him. He kept repeating prayers all night. He was saying the prayer, but he doesn't get any peace at all. So he didn't get any peace at all. During the day, he did not go near Makka Simeon, nor even look at him. So he never, in the morning, he didn't go near to him, and he was not looking at him also. A fortnight passed in this way. Asino could not sleep at night and was so miserable that he did not know what to do. So one day and night had passed. The next day night, even next day night, he didn't get sleep at all. So this was running in his mind, and he was thinking something, and he is not getting a sleep at all. So one night, as he was walking about the prison, he noticed some earth that came rolling out from under one of the shelves on which the prisoner slept. He stopped to see what it was. Suddenly Makka Simeon crept out from under the shelf and looked up at Asino with So here when days passed, he was not getting sleep at all. So one day when he was walking in the prison, something was rolling and coming near his leg, and he noticed some earth that came rolling, earth material, it's a vessel made of earth, just came to see that. And when he was noticing this, he doesn't know what to do. Under one of the shelves, one which the prisoner slept, he stopped to see. So he stopped there to see what it was. Suddenly Makassimio crept out from under the shelf. So he was coming out of the shelf and looked up at Asino so he was looking at Asino, a frightened face. Asino tried to pass without looking at him, but Makka seized his hand and told him that he had dug a hole under the wall, getting rid of the earth by putting it into his high boots and emptying it out every day on the road. When the prisoner were driven to their work, so all the prisoner went to the work, he was digging a way to go out. And he was telling, he was just frightened by seeing him, and he was explaining that he was just digging a thing, you want to go out. Just you keep quiet, old man, and you shall get out too. If you blab, they will flog the life out of me, but I will kill you first. So what you are saying, you must not tell anybody, I have told you, you keep quiet. If you are keeping quiet, what I will do? I will take you also along with me. Otherwise, I will be first killing you if you tell to anybody, and if I get caught, I will be getting nicely, but I will not leave you, I will be killing you. So he was just threatening Asino's. Asino trembled with anger as he looked at his enemy. He drew his hand away, saying, I have no wish to escape, and you have no need to kill me. You killed me long ago. As to telling of you, I may do so or not, as God shall direct. So what you say? So it is not, I don't wish to come out anymore. So if you are already killed, it is not necessary for you to kill me. Already you killed me, and because of God shall direct. So I may do so or not, as God shall direct. So how God is directing me, I am just leading a life. I don't want to do anything for you. Next day, when the convict were led out to work, the convoy soldiers noticed that one or the other of the prisoner emptied some earth out of its boots. The earthen was searched and the tunnel found. The governor came and questioned all the prisoners to find out who had dug the hole. They all denied any knowledge of it. Those who knew would not betray Makassimio, knowing he would be flogged almost to death. At last the governor turned to Asino, whom he knew to be a just man, and said, so here, the next day when all went for the work, they found out that somebody's boots thing had been wooden, where had been taken, and that earthen thing is taken, and they were digging and finding a way to go out. And they called all the convicts and they were asking who was the person who have done like this. And here nobody was telling him, because some were not knowing, and some who knows also, they didn't open their mouth because they were frightened. He'll be flogged him, he'll be giving nicely, or he'll be fighting with them, or he'll be killing. So they threatened. That fright made them not to tell anything. At last the governor turned to Asino and he was asking, you are a just and you are a truth, and how can whom he knew to be a just man, and said, what he said, just he said, just he said, you are a truthful old man, you are a truthful old man, tell me before God who dug the hole. So he was telling that you are a truthful person, you just tell me who had dug the hole. Makassimio stood as if he were quite unconcerned, looking at the governor, not so much as glancing at Asino. Asino's lips and hands trembled, and for a long time he could not utter a word. He thought, why should I screen him who ruined my life? Let him pay for what I have suffered. But if I tell, they will probably flog the life out of him, and maybe I suspect him wrongly. And after all, what good would it be to me? So he was thinking in this mind, his hands all trembling and his lips so trembling, and he was frightened and he was not able to tell. And he was thinking, if we find out and tell he is a person, and what is the use, he was thinking. And at the same time, it is what he had done a wrong to him, and if we want to tell, he will be getting nicely from. And what is the use of getting? So 26 years he spent all his life time in the prison, and what is the use after that punishing him? So God doesn't like that also. So that's all running in his mind, and he had not told, what good would it be to me? So what good will be there for me? Nothing will be good. Well, old man, repeated the governor, tell me the truth, who has been digging under the wall? Asino glanced at the Makasimion and said, I cannot say, your honor, it is not God's will that I should tell. Do what you like with me, I am your aunt's. So here the thing is, Asino was telling to the governor that he doesn't know who had done it, and it is not the way for God to tell also, and if whatever punishment you are ready to give, you just give me, it is not a problem at all. So you give me the punishment, he was just telling. I am in your hand, you can give any punishment. How much the governor tried, so much the governor tried, Asino had not put a word, say no more, and so the matter had to be left. That night when Asino was lying on his bed and just beginning to doze, someone came quietly and sat down on his bed. He peered through the darkness and recognized Makka. So here, that night when Asino was lying on his bed, he was lying on his bed and just beginning to doze, he was just trying to sleep, and someone came quietly and sat down. Someone came quietly and sat down on his bed, near his bed. On his bed he came and sat near to him. He peered through the darkness and recognized Makka. So he understood that it was Makka. And what more do you want of me? Asked Asino. Why have you come here? So he was asking. So here, what more do you want of me? So here you have done so many things for me, and more what you want from me? And asked Asino, why have you come here? So why have you come here? Why you came here? And Makasimion was silent. So Asino sat up and said, what do you want? Go away or I will call the god. So he is coming and sitting next to him, and he is saying that you go away from this place, otherwise I will call the gods. So he is telling, and Makasimion bent close over Asino and whispered, Ivan Dimitrich, forgive me. For what for? Asked Asino. It was I who killed the merchant and did the knife among your things. I meant to kill you too, but I heard a noise outside, so I hid the knife in your bag and escaped out of the window. Asino was silent and did not know what to say. Makasimion slid off the bed shelf and knelt upon the ground. Ivan Dimitrich said he, forgive me for the love of God, forgive me, I will confess that it was I who killed the merchant, and you will be released, and can you go to your home? It is easy for you to talk, said Asino, but I have suffered for you these 26 years. Where could I go to now? My wife is dead and my children have forgotten me. I have nowhere to go. Makasimion did not rise but beat his head on the floor. Ivan Dimitrich, forgive me, he cried. When they flogged me with the knot, it was not so hard to bear as it is to see you now. Yet you had pity on me and did not tell. For Christ's sake, forgive me, wretch that I am. And he began to sob. So here he was just telling that and crying that what the mistake he had made, and he was asking forgiveness from him. And you know that you are not even said to the chance when you got, you are not said to me. So here you are the right person for me to do it, and you have forgiven me, you please forgive him. And he is just hitting his head down and he was begging his forgiveness from him. And he is ready to accept all his punishment, and he is ready to declare that he only was a person. And he was telling that I killed the merchant and I came to kill you also, but that time you were, I heard some noise, so I just hid my knife in your bag and I just ran away. So he was accepting his mistake and asking forgiveness from him. And when Asino heard him sobbing, he too began to weep. So when he was crying and feeling, he also started weeping. And he was telling, so you just think over the punishment I have got, 26 years I have got to the punishment, and what is the use of now going and telling? So he was telling, maybe I am 100 times worse than you. And at these words his heart grew light and the longing for the home left him. He no longer had any desire to leave the prison, but only hoped for his last hour to come. So there is no way for him to go, because his wife had died and children had forgotten him, and there is no use of going home. So he wanted to be in the prison itself, but he had hope for the last waiting. So here he was waiting for the last hour, that is for his death. In spite of what Asino had said, Makasimeon confessed his guilt, but when the order for his release came, Asino was already dead. So here Makasimeon went running to the thing, and he was telling all the things what all happened. And when the release order came to him, but that Asino was already dead and there is no way. So here he had not made a mistake at all, he had not killed at all, but he underwent punishment, and at last he had died. And till his death he had not angry with anybody. He was a godly person, he had forgiven even the person who had given. The same way, whatever the wrong others were doing for us, we have to do right things for them, instead of just taking vengeance and punishing them. As God had, we are doing so many wrongs, and God is forgiving us of what the mistakes we are making. The same way, we also have the heart of just making it like forgiving others and not taking vengeance. So here this is very important. The moral from the thing is, you must be always truthful, and you must be forgiving others also. So it is not possible, children, we can try to be truthful and forgiving others in nature. Thank you, children. I think the lesson got over. We'll see you in the next class.